Hi, I'm Robin. I was hoping this would be a shorter script this time, but there's a lot to cover, so I gotta continue to talk fast and eat ass. Whereas my previous video was more about the background behind the present war, this time I'll be talking about more what's been happening this week with the war, and both in the news and in my opinion. If you need a refresher of what's going on or just where Ukraine is in general, you can watch my last video summarizing things. Over the course of last weekend, approximately the 11th through the 13th, the U.S. Department of State had begun issuing calls for U.S. citizens to evacuate, along with 12 other countries issuing evacuation notices, including the UK, Japan, Australia, Germany, and Israel, citing intelligence shared between nations of an impending invasion, led by a false flag operation in the occupied Donbas region. Reports indicated an invasion occurring before the conclusion of the 2022 Olympics, many of which cited Wednesday, February 16th as a significant date. The families of state embassy employees in Kyiv were among the first evacuated, relocating essential staff and consular services to the western city of Lviv in case of larger emergencies. The Ukrainian government offered $590 million in insurance for airlines to continue operating within Ukrainian airspace. Tuesday night, February 15th, Ukraine's central bank, as well as its defense ministry's website and a number of other Ukrainian banks, suffered a DDoS cyber attack that, for several hours, prevented usage of the respective services offered. Given that there was a reported withdrawal of troops from the Belarusian border and the aforementioned intelligence citing Wednesday the 16th as a significant date for the Russian invasion plan, for a time it felt as though there might be a proper de-escalation. Unfortunately, we had merely moved into Russia's Plan B. To this point, it should be stated that strategic analysts, both domestically and from third-party sources, considered numerous possibilities in regards to how probable any given Russian invasion might take place, and the likelihood of each option's long-term success. Many eyes lingered on a swift takeover of Ukraine's capital of Kyiv. Given Russia's current troop buildup, this would likely be both unsustainable and a massive loss of Russian forces with little payoff. Ukraine would never accept any puppet government being established as Russian proxy, and the country's capital would be too far from military supply lines to sustain occupation for any extended period of time. Ukrainian militias, known as regional defense forces, have begun organizing and are prepared to coordinate with the standing Ukrainian military to thwart Russian invasion at every opportunity. All this, however, is still no guarantee that this plan of action might not still come to pass. And here's where we arrive at Russia's Plan B. If you can't surprise the enemy and capture their base of operations, you challenge their legitimacy and weaken the trust between them and their allies. Rather than lingering on a failed Plan A, the Russian parliament moved to recognize the occupied territories of Luhansk and Donetsk and their illegitimate governments as independent republics. This serves to further distance the occupied territories from Ukraine, as well as function as grounds to mount a full invasion. Well-documented, staged attacks on civilians and the region's infrastructure have been utilized by insurgents to attempt to justify retaliation led by Russian forces. February 17th through the 18th saw an increase from just under 150,000 troops along the Ukrainian border and in occupied territories to estimates ranging between 169 and 190,000. 70 artillery shelling incidents launched by militant insurgents occurred between Thursday the 17th and Saturday the 19th along the border of the occupied territories in violation of the Minsk ceasefire agreements. This resulted in 3 injured civilians and 2 dead Ukrainian soldiers in an attempt to further provoke the Ukrainian military. On top of this, several videos calling for evacuation from the Donetsk and Luhansk regions to Russia were released, within hours of a video of a gas pipeline being exploded in the Luhansk region. All these videos contained metadata showing that all of them were recorded on Wednesday the 16th. On February 19th, Ukrainian President Zelensky traveled to Munich to demand security guarantees, as well as preemptive sanctions against Russia. His remarks called for decisive action from Western partners in ensuring the success of Ukraine, erstwhile demanding punitive action be enforced against the Russian aggressors in accordance with the Normandy and Minsk agreements. And that's where we are. My family and I are still relatively safe in Lviv. Everyone is still going about their days, and outside the expat community, there is no widespread panic. For outside eyes, however, this shouldn't be mistaken for indifference or any lack of concern. The war in Donbas has been going on for over 8 years. The Ukrainian army isn't the same as it was in 2014, gutted of funding and caught off guard by Russian insurgents. Civilians aren't paralyzed with fear. They're ready. Rent is going up in several western cities, including Lviv, and everyone is making preparations in their own way to defend their country and way of life. Russian propaganda and misinformation campaigns continue everywhere, trying to claim that the US and NATO are provoking Russia into starting a war. They're also trying to claim that the Ukrainian military is committing war crimes against civilians in Donbas and threaten to invade both the Donbas region and occupied Crimea. Fact-checkers are constantly scrutinizing the media being spread about the war in Donbas and in the occupied territories. Don't believe Putin's bullshit factories. Foreigners in various Facebook groups are constantly asking about whether Ukraine is safe now or how they can help and if they can join the military. And here's my 2 cents. It's the wrong time to try and be a tourist here. Ukraine is a red zone for COVID, including a new strain of Omicron, and Russia might fucking invade. Vacay elsewhere. If you want to send money, you can donate to the Come Back Alive Fund, which sends supplies and munitions to Ukrainian soldiers, or to the Kyiv Independent to help fund independent journalism within Ukraine. If you are here and have chosen to stay, there are lots of ways to help, including but not limited to joining the military or one of the regional defense forces. My hot take, in spite of international evacuation notices, is that you should stay and help. Expats fleeing the country have caused the largest amount of panic domestically, aside from Russian provocations, and ultimately feeds directly into Russia's destabilization strategy within Ukraine. Unity in the face of an aggressor is where I believe the Ukrainian spirit lives. If you are an ally to Ukraine and believe in Ukraine's right to self-determination, you should stand by Ukraine. Allyship is not just vocal support, it's standing in solidarity against injustice in both mind and body, and choosing to do whatever you can to defend freedom. I'm from the US, and our military serves an entirely different purpose. The US military defends America's interests abroad. The Ukrainian military defends Ukraine's right to exist, and right now, Ukraine is in danger of not existing. Offer your skills, translation, engineering, funding, military experience, exposure. To my Ukrainian friends nervous about everything going on, keep making plans to keep your life as normal as possible, and take care of yourselves. If their strategy is to sow panic, the best thing you can do is show that they aren't getting to you. Send that fuckface Putin the vigorous fuck off he most genuinely deserves, and let dictator McBitchnuggets know that his crimes will not go unpunished. As a last aside, I just really want to be able to enjoy Elden Ring when it comes out this week on the 25th. I don't want to have to deal with a fucking invasion. Fuck you, Lukashenko. Fuck you, Vladimir Putin. Slava Ukraini.